Chase is gutting business referrals. Mark went to Playa del Carmen. Going to talk about the Grand Hyatt there. Why Accor is so good. He's going to convince me to transfer thank you points on the show. All of that coming up right now on MTM Travel.
Drain those balances, baby. Let's go.
So 4th of July just happened, Mark, and you are in your cottage, small town Americana. You got your whale American flag on. How was your 4th?
It was good. It was really, really nice weather here. My sister and her kids and husband came up, and then my parents are still here, but they came up to visit. So we all spent it at the lake and they watched the fireworks. The cool thing is, like, we're close enough to downtown where they shoot off fireworks that you can just kind of float in the water and watch it, which is kind of special. I skipped it. Stayed by the fire. So I'm not a huge fireworks person. I don't know if you are.
I used to be, and then I found the last few years I've been less sort of into it. I live in a place that probably has more fireworks shows on 4th of July than anywhere else, and I stayed home and didn't partake on the 4th of July this year. Although, I mean, we have a lot of fireworks here in Vegas all the time, so, you know, in the summer, heck, we have them every Friday.
Yeah, I was surprised. I know we're going to talk about this on the Vegas show, but I'm surprised that your Plaza shoots off fireworks on the 4th because they do them every Friday. You think they'd be like, you know what? We do it all year or all summer. We're going to take this time off a little bit, and you guys carry the slack for a while.
Yeah, but it is cool. But my favorite 4th of Julys have been in small town. I remember doing like Sioux Falls, South Dakota one year, and it was just at the local fairground, and they had their little cart full of fireworks, and they launched it off in front of us, and they had the local band going, and it was just about what I think the holiday is. It's better than ever doing it in a city, I think. Although I do think the National Mall, that always looks amazing every single year.
Yeah, I think that one looks cool. Vegas, of course, because there's so many going off, looks awesome. I'll say in Michigan, the best, at least they used to be, I haven't been there in a while, but where my wife grew up in Bay City is like known for fireworks, and people will park their cars in the morning to try to get a spot there later, and you sit out. They have like a fair going on at the same time often, so they have rides and stuff along the river, and then they shoot off fireworks right there, so everybody just kind of like sits on the banks of the river and watches them, and they put on a really good show. And they used to do it to music and everything, like Lady in Red, and then it would be all red fireworks and all that stuff. But I feel like 90s was like the peak of fireworks, and it's kind of gone downhill from there.
I don't know. I mean, we got drones now. The tech has evolved, but yeah, I think you kind of maybe lose something in there. I will say one thing I have enjoyed with the rise of social media and drones is watching drone footage from inside fireworks, where you're kind of at the same level and the drone is flying inside the fireworks and they're going off. I love that perspective that we get. So many people have drones now, so many I think, the 90s, do you remember, did people launch their own fireworks so much? Like in Vegas, it becomes a war zone with everybody launching illegal fireworks.
I think they did, but it wasn't as prevalent, and there wasn't as many states that had legalized ones that shot in the air. It was always like those little like whistler ones that just had sparks that kind of flew, 2 feet into the air. They didn't have exploding ones, and now so many states allow exploding ones that they shoot them off. Like one year, the beach down, the next subdivision down from us had a better fireworks show than the city did. And we felt like, so you get a little bit of that. And then of course they shoot them off too late. It gets annoying, but I don't know. It's just, yeah, it gets kind of crazy and everybody gets mad.
Yeah, it's crazy. I have a lot of neighbors who do it. And that's another point is I can go outside and see these big fireworks shows, and they spend so much money on this stuff where you can just go see it for free. So I don't know. It's a lot of money. Thousands of dollars, I think people spend on these big fireworks shows.
The best fireworks shows every year is the city that messes up and accidentally lights them all off at the same time.
Yeah. Always fun as long as nobody gets hurt. That is crazy to see those videos. There's that one video that goes viral every single year. Oh God, what's the guy's name? But he's in a wheelchair and the other guy's yelling at him to go in reverse. And have you seen that funny video? No, it's hilarious. But yeah, as long as everybody's safe, nobody gets hurt, then you can have some funny videos come out of it.
Yeah, I think, what is it, like San Diego or something in 2012 had like a massive one where they all shot off at the same time. And I think something else happened this year in a smaller town where they all went off at the same time and people were out in their boats and it was like blowing up like all around them. I don't think anybody got hurt, but it's just insane to see it all go down. It's like the best finale of all time. And then you don't have to sit there for 30 minutes watching this, like one go off here, one go off there. get it done in 6 minutes or 4 minutes or however long it takes. Perfect.
Yeah, it's what it's meant to be. But hopefully, you guys had a great holiday. Kind of marks the middle of the summer. I mean, kind of looking at our school schedule, Ellie goes back to school like the second week of August. So summer's almost halfway over. I know you guys got a little bit more time, but we have a lot to talk about on this show. We're going to talk about Grand Hyatt in Playa del Carmen, which you visited. But let's start with the Chase referrals. They changed their referral program this week, and it's really sort of bad for people. Before, you could just refer somebody over and over again to a card. You know, there's rules for the specific card on whether you could get it or not. But they didn't have to be a customer of Chase or not a customer of Chase, or they never looked at the wider relationship. And a lot of people did P2 referrals. They referred spouses, all that sort of stuff. And that's coming to an end on business cards because it will have to be a new person, a new Chase customer to earn a referral bonus starting in October.
Yeah, like a new Chase. I think they could be a personal card holder, but a new business customer is what it sounds like. And that's what, 60,000 points per couple or per person per couple. So 120,000 points if you get all three of the inks, maybe four of the inks. So you're looking at 80,000 points, and then 160 for two people if you're referring back and forth. Well, we can't get all of them because the first one has to sign up without a referral. But we're talking 100,000 plus points possible for a two-person household, and now it's getting dropped down to a cap of 40,000 points. 20,000 for each person referring each way, and same with friends and family. If you work a lot with friends and family and you help them out and they give you the referrals, now you're only going to get one for them, and if you've already gotten that one from them, it's done. So this is going to be a big change. It's going to be rough, and we saw a couple of years ago they were giving 40,000 points. Then they dropped it down to 20,000 points, and now it's going to be 0 points often, which kind of stinks. But it is similar to what you see with Capital One and others, where Capital One, if it's not a new business account, you probably won't get the points. Or if they, you send them the referral and they say, you're not eligible for this one, but you can sign up for this one. If they don't sign up for the card or the card family that you send them, you don't get anything either, which is, kind of dirty.
Yeah, I kind of understand this on the surface. A referral is to get new business, and if they already have a business relationship with the bank, why would the bank want to pay it? I think the reason that they've done this for so long is because when they have the person at the point of click, they want to convert that. And so it still incentivizes people to go out and tell their friends, even if they may have a relationship. And I think that's a good point to you. I have several different business relationships with Chase. So I assume that if you've received a referral bonus, even if you already have other business accounts under different businesses, I would assume the new business would work. Have you heard anything about that?
No, and I don't think we'll know for sure until people test it out, and then we'll have to see if Chase really enforces this strictly, or is there like a gap of so many years between signups, or do they currently have a card? There will be all kinds of little loopholes and wiggle rooms, and we've seen that with the new Sapphire rules and everything, that it's not strictly enforced. So maybe they're just putting this in there so they can enforce abusers, but they won't fully enforce it. I don't know. Otherwise, everybody's just going to go out and get like 8 EINs and call it a day.
Well, they're more difficult to get approved with. So it makes it, it's not like you can just apply and get approved without any documentation, especially with Chase Business. But yeah, I mean, that is certainly a workaround if that is the case. So we'll see how that goes. Still have a little bit of time to do that, a couple months before the changes happen. A lot of changes going on over there at Chase. I have something that's loosely Chase related, Mark. So a few years ago, quite a few years ago now, I flew in Korean Air first class. It was great. I got to fly regionally within Asia on the old 747-400 in the cone by myself. The entire domestic, I don't know, it's kind of like domestic first class cabin. It wasn't lie flat or anything. And then I flew the 747-8 home, and it was great. So what I did before the transfers from Chase to Korean Air went away is I transferred 80,000 ultimate rewards so I could have enough for one first class redemption. And then years later, they were going to expire. They pushed that off, all that stuff, because of the pandemic. And here I am still with those 80,000 miles going to Korea later this year. But here is my dilemma. From Las Vegas, I can get a business class flight, 57,500 miles plus whatever the surcharges are. Or I could go to Chicago and get first class for 80,000 miles because that's the only sort of city where there's availability. But I'm going to Korea and China with my friend Dave, who I floated the idea of me going to Chicago and flying separately. And I don't think that was good. So I might just get stuck with 22,000 Korean Air miles that I'll have to figure out. I know there's some weird ways to top them up, but pretty much they're stranded there, and I don't have a good way to get anything else to replace them or
No,
to top
go to
them up.
Chicago. Dave, suck it up. Now, what you could do is just say you'll pay for his ticket from Vegas to Chicago because he was paying for the Vegas to Korea. So, hey, I'll cover the extra leg or whatever, and I don't know, maybe use some points to upgrade him or something. Because Dave usually flies economy, right?
Yeah, and I think what I'm going to do for his ticket, he doesn't have as wide a range of miles, and so I don't think he's going to have what it takes for this. So I think I'm going to use Alaska miles to book Korean Air economy for him. And by the way, the business and first class space for Korean Air miles is significantly bigger and wider than it is for partners. So, for example, the same flights that are only showing economy with Alaska, I can see business and first class space out of Chicago. So, but yeah, why? What's the wrong with him just leaving from Las Vegas and us meeting in Seoul? I don't. Why does he have to come to Chicago with me?
I don't know, because then if like one of you gets delayed or something happens with the flight, at least it happens to both of you. You don't want to like end up there and then you get stuck and come a day later or something. It just kind of messes up all the plans. So I could see why you'd want to still be on the same flight over just to be safe, or make sure everything happens at the same time.
And it's funny because from there we're going to China, and he's like, "Well, maybe we can use those leftover miles for the flight from Seoul to mainland China." And I was like, "Well, I could use it for myself, but this is just a funny thing to mention about Korean Air for people who don't know is that you have to have your family. Those are the only people you can book tickets with miles for." And I've never done this. I've only ever had myself on the account, but I've heard it's pretty rough to set up family. Like you have to send in documentation and all of that in order to be able to book them. So I couldn't even book our regional flights for him with my Korean Air miles. So I don't know, but I think I'm just leaning
Yeah,
towards
just burn the
business
80K.
class.
80K. Come on. You don't want to have stranded miles. Just do the
And make him go to Chicago with me. Make my friend
Yeah.
fly all the way half the wrong direction just so I can fly in first class and he
Yeah,
can be in
put him,
economy.
put him
Come
in
on.
first class. Put him in first class from Chicago to Vegas. It will feel like nothing, and then do that. I don't know. It's yeah, it's something. Maybe you can figure out a way to get him into premium economy on the longer flight to make it worth it to him. A little
I don't
pay
know.
up.
He would do it, as we both know he would do it, but I feel sort
Yeah.
of bad. And, the idea of flying to Chicago too, when I could just get on in Las Vegas, the timings of the Las Vegas flight are pretty good. So I don't know. I keep going back and forth. I need to make up my decision pretty soon. We need to get this booked for the trip, but let me know in the comments, what would you do? Would you strand the miles? Would you go to Chicago? Would you fly separately? Would you fly your friend out there with you? I don't know. It's an interesting conundrum to have. I will say Korean Air First is amazing. That's why I would love to do it again.
I'm just shocked that they haven't devalued it since then. I thought you were going to be like, well, I have 80,000, but that only gets me business now. So that's kind of cool, years and years later. But another point is Chase has lost a couple of people, Amtrak, Korean Air. I think there was one other in there in the last few years, and they haven't added anything. It just seems like they're kind of resting on their laurels and not doing much. You see Bilt adding new partners all the time, which they work outside of the normal realm of banking points. So they can get away with things that others can't. But you'd think that they'd be looking to add something.
Yeah, it's a good point. 10 years ago, Chase was the big dog in town and really only one doing this on a wide level. I mean, Citi was around with Thank You, but they had the best ecosystem and the best partners, and nothing has really changed. If it wasn't for Hyatt, I think Chase would be in a lot of trouble. United, I think, is a big partner for them, though, too, even though maybe less popular among miles and points people. I think a lot of people use United. So those are the two, I think, that are so important for Chase.
Yeah, and I think Southwest was big for a long time because there's a lot of domestic people that only travel domestically, and Southwest was a favorite airline. But that's kind of tarnished a bit, and the points keep getting worth less and less. They were 1.6 or whatever 10 years ago. Now they're probably 1.2, 1.3. So it's not as good of a deal. And then everybody's mad at Southwest now. So you almost like count that as like losing a partner or losing half a partner because less people are going to be excited about that. And then if the investors chop off Companion Pass like they've kind of hinted about, then are their credit cards worth anything really anymore?
Yeah, Southwest has been terrible to see. I think this was several years ago, but I remember Gary Luff writing about some devaluation and how it affected Chase and how these devaluations do affect the value of points. And I think he was talking specifically about Chase at that time. and saying, you see all of these devaluations from all these partner programs. At some point, it has to affect the value of the ultimate reward or the membership reward or whatever. And Chase has definitely had to deal with that. And I agree, lately, Southwest is a big downgrade for them. And I know a lot of people, even though it wasn't the absolute best value, they topped off with Southwest, especially because of the companion pass and the overall ecosystem. And yeah, it's just not as good. So yeah, Chase under some pressure here. Let's get some sexy transfer partners. Let's get
Yeah,
American Airlines. Why not? Let's just steal it from Citi.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be wild. But yeah, and even like Southwest Rapid Rewards back in the day, they weren't worth as much, but they were the only one that you could cancel for free. And that was a really big perk of the points, and people were willing to take less value for more flexibility. But coming out of the pandemic, with everything being flexible now, or most everything, that really torpedoed Rapid Rewards. Like, I had no reason to ever put points in there once that was the case that every other airline was offering it. So Chase got devalued because everybody else upped their game, and Southwest really got devalued in terms of their points usefulness.
All right, so I'm ready for you to convince me to transfer my thank you points to Accor. On a show, maybe, I don't know, a few weeks ago, a month ago, we talked about Citi thank you to Accor, the 50% transfer bonus. So usually, what is it? For 1,000 thank you points, you would usually get 500 Accor points. Right now, you're getting 750 Accor points. And that doesn't sound like much, but Accor points can have a significant value. Mark's going to talk about what he's found since that initial date. A reminder, there was a Bilt transfer promotion. You transferred over some points, and you're going to Europe, and you got an insane redemption.
Yeah, so Accor points it's unique. It's a really unique program, and I'd never really looked at it until the Bilt transfer. Just it was so hard to get points in there, and then with Bilt getting basically 2 Accor points to 1 Bilt point, I said this was like the most insane transfer bonus we've ever seen, and I still think that. So the unique thing about Accor is for every 2,000 points, you get 40 euros. So basically, two euro cents per point. But US dollars usually worth less, so you're getting a little bit more. And as that gap widens, right now they're pretty close, so you don't get as much value. But as that gap widens, like we've seen in the past, you get even more value compared to like US dollars. So you're right around like 2.2 US cents per point, which is really, really good. Now, when you're transferring from Bilt with that 2 times promo, is really insane. But the cool thing about the program is you can book like any hotel for the most part, and they just give you the cash rate, and then you use points to reduce it down. So if you have only, if you don't have enough points to pay for the whole hotel room, you can still wipe off what you can wipe off. So that's cool. And then another thing is you can wait until checkout to do it. You can do it anytime during your stay. You don't have to do it before your stay. So you can accrue points or wait for another transfer bonus and hope for one to come in before you check out. Then you can do that. You can also use them at the restaurants, even if you're not staying at the hotel, which I find super interesting and really cool. They can go there and you get the same rate. So you can, if they have a really nice restaurant on property, you're staying down the street, go in there and say, I want to use my Accor points, wipe off that bill. So it's a really flexible program, unique program. But this is what I did. So we're going to London later on this year, and I booked a hotel room that they had. Accor had that, sometimes you see the 50% off the second room for families, right, Shawn?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Hyatt does that or whatever, but you have to pay cash for it. So we were like looking at this. We were looking at booking a suite, or we could get 2 rooms for about the same price as a suite cash price because the second room was half off. The cool thing is, as far as I know it, this is the only program that you can technically use points for that second room. So you're getting a second room at 50% off, and then since it's a cash valuation that you bid it down, we got 2 rooms, bid it down. So the cost for 2 rooms for 2 nights, so essentially 4 nights in a hotel, 52,000 Accor points. There was $40 in leftover charges between the 2 rooms that would just, because if there's remaining balance that the points don't work towards, you have to pay that. So 52,000 points, $40 in charges. But with the 200% bonus to Bilt, it's only 26,000 Bilt points. So it's 6,500 Bilt points a night for a hotel in London on a weekend, which is pretty insane. So with the Citi, it's not as good. You're getting 1 turns into 0.75 cents. But, at 2.2 cents per point, you're looking at like 1.6, 1.7, I believe, valuation for your Citi points, which is really good, I think.
Yeah, I agree. My hesitation on doing this would be how often am I staying in Accor hotels where I don't have
All the
other
time.
options? Yeah, I
You
mean, I
could,
could.
you
I
just
stayed.
did. You
I
just
just
did.
did. You're right. For the first time in like 10 years. And it's funny. It was right before all of the built stuff and right before the transfer bonus, but they have nice properties. Mercure, I've stayed in their hotels before. They're decent. And then the Sofitel and
Fairmont.
yeah, Fairmont is amazing. So they have a lot of good stuff. Obviously, it's tied to the cash price. So if you can find lower times, it's probably pretty good. But to transfer them over with the hope of using them, I mean, I have a bunch of thank you points just sitting there. So maybe I should transfer over some, like 100,000 or something.
No, come on, let's go big. I mean, you did 500,000 Alaska. We can't do 500,000. Thank you. But no, I would check, like, you're going to China, you're going to uh South Korea. I would see if there's any there before you do. Like I kind of looked where we were going. Like we're going to Turkey in March of next year for a couple nights, and we talked about that on the show. And I booked an Accor hotel there. It looks like a beautiful property, and I think it was like, went for like 6,000 points a night or something crazy like that. So there are really good deals out there. You just have to look at major cities. I think are pretty decent. US is a little bit more sporadic. I mean, you have like New York, you have the coastal cities. I think there's one in Cincinnati that I was looking at. So there's just random stuff in the US, but when you get out to Europe and everything, I think they have pretty decent coverage for the major cities you're going to. And then like Fairmont, we said if you're going to Banff up in Canada, that Fairmont there is insane looking, and you're right on right by Lake Moraine, I believe. So you have all the beautiful stuff. You can stay there overnight, kind of beat the crowds a little bit. I think there's a lot of value to be had if you just look a little bit.
Yeah, Banff looks incredible. I've known a ton of people who have stayed at that Fairmont. And you make a good point on Asia and China. In fact, the hotel I stayed at the last two times I went to Shanghai Disneyland was a Mercure, and there are Accor all over, all over China. And they're new properties, just like you'll find with Marriott or Hilton or Hyatt. They're all pretty much new hotels and really nice as well. So actually, yeah, you opened my eyes. I definitely should be adding Accor to my searches for China. Although I do love the Hyatt globalist treatment in China and the way you get treated with status, and I would miss that at the Accor hotels.
Yeah, one thing we're trying to figure out, and this was like Derek's idea at Travel on Points, is that if you book with a travel agency, because they have travel agency, they're able to book things. If you book with it, you get like $100 property credit. You get kind of like FHR benefits through Accor hotels, or at least some of the premium ones. And the question is, if you book through that and get those perks, can you still wipe it off at checkout? Because if you can, then you could double dip, and it would be like you're a globalist. So if anybody's tried that, please let us know if that's possible. That is a game changer, I think.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And yeah, share in the comments your experiences with Accor. I feel like you certainly are putting the stuff together on Travel on Points, but let's get a pressure to get it more on the radar, led by our leader Mark.
Yes, I'm going to convince Shawn. He's going to, by the time when I think like a week left in this transfer, maybe a week and a half, you're going to do something. You're going to get off the show. Look at your, oh, I could book that hotel, that hotel, that hotel. It's only going to cost me like 50,000 thank you points.
I admittedly the China stuff I am interested, so we'll take a look at that.
Update next week.
Definitely not 500,000 like I did with Alaska. So we will
Yeah.
see. But we want to hear about the Grand Hyatt Playa del Carmen. I've heard about this hotel for years. I've been to the area where it's at, so I know location wise where exactly it's at. I chose my last time in the area to go stay at Mayakoba, the Andaz. That's maybe 20 miles from there. But I guess one of the nice things about the Grand Hyatt is it really is in the center of Playa del Carmen. So you're right near all of the action. I know you had a meetup there. How was it?
Yeah, the bad news is it is leaving the Hyatt program in a couple months. So I think in the fall, and it's going to become an all inclusive. So that's the negative. If you have it booked, you're probably going to be getting bumped pretty soon. And I know it's been a favorite. I believe it's Cat 4. So that's a great use of a cert or decent points values. We were there, in summer, so it's not super busy. Like downtown Playa del Carmen was very dead. I was kind of surprised that there wasn't a lot going on. The hotel felt a little bit dead. So it was nice in that respect that it wasn't super busy, but also kind of surprising there was nothing. If you've never been to the area, it's, about an hour from Cancun. So we flew into Cancun, did a transfer, like a van, so we could fit multiple people since it was a work retreat type of thing. And it was like $90 a person. I believe Uber and all that is about the same. It's like $80 a person. You can take the bus from the airport there. That would be a lot cheaper, but just expect about $100 to go each way from there to the from Cancun to Playa del Carmen and then back. And give yourself about an hour when you leave. And I hate Cancun Airport, so the lounges there suck. The airport, there's no Wi-Fi. It's kind of crammed. So it's tough when you. Do you ever get worried when you have like an hour to the airport? You get there a little bit earlier than you probably would normally because you don't want to get stuck in traffic and stuff, and then it's a terrible airport experience.
Yeah, a lot of the Mexican airports have priority pass lounges that are not very good. They're crowded. Some airports are better than others. Air conditioning works better at some airports than others, and that airport is not particularly great. Cabo Airport used to be terrible, but they've renovated it. I think it was much better the last time I was there. At least decent options around the airport there. Did you say $80 a person for the transfer or $80 for the
Or
entire?
Yeah, for the entire thing. So if you have multiple
Okay.
people, it's the same. It's the same cost. But yeah, if you're going individually, you're going to pay like $80. So that's the downside to it. But I really like downtown. Like when you leave the hotel, you walk a block or two, and you're right in the tourist district with all the bars and restaurants and everything. I think it's called like Fifth Street or Fifth Ave, something like that. Everything is right there. You can get to and from the hotel very quickly by walking. So the location is superb. It's right on the beach. We were there when it was the seaweed time of year, so the beaches were covered in seaweed. So nobody really went in because the water was crazy. But they have multiple infinity pools that kind of work off each other. And when you walk in, it feels very like a Hawaiian, like Waldorf Astoria in Maui. Like you walk in and you can kind of see all the way through to the beach, and they have it's a covered like a roof, but it's open air, no walls, which does stink when it rains because the one of the few restaurants open during lunchtime has to close when it rains because it comes in and hits. It's like a sushi bar slash uh, they they grill some chicken and things like that. So it's like a Japanese restaurant sushi bar, but as soon as rain comes in, if it starts pelting, they just leave and close until until it stops. So maybe not the best idea for that setup, but really beautiful entryway. You walk in, you see everything, check-in desk right there. The hotel is kind of like a big box, but it has like an Atlantis bridge over the beach. So it's not all enclosed. There's a fifth floor that goes across the entire back part of the property, but the rest of it is 4 floors high and just kind of like a U-shaped setup. So hopefully Shawn's throwing up video for people right now that are watching on YouTube so you can see kind of the layout of everything.
I didn't know it was leaving the Hyatt portfolio. That's sad to see. There's a lot of all
Yeah.
inclusives in that area. So I guess you don't need another one. There's probably not as many that are as close to the city as that because most of them are a little further away. And there's a bunch of all inclusives just south of there as well. But I've always just heard great things that area. Now, see, we have to talk about my car rental because I think that you shouldn't get a shuttle. People should just rent a car when they go down to Cancun. I wrote an article years ago about how I had to fight with them about the insurance and all
Yeah.
that fun stuff. What an
All your car
experience that
rental
was.
stories are the opposite of what you want.
Yeah, I have a lot of car rental. I've rented like cars like a bunch of times, and yeah, it seems like other countries is my real issue. Well, in that case, I didn't really have an issue because I knew what to expect. I had like all of. So what happened was I booked a rate that included insurance for the basics of the insurance, and then I had my credit card to backstop me for all of that. But I was legally fine, and the rate was like $5 a night. I think it was like 20 something dollars. I wrote an article, so if I'm wrong on my numbers, people can fact check me. But it was really cheap, and the whole idea being that they were going to upcharge you on insurance and tell you needed it. But I kind of knew I didn't need it, and I brought in my letter from the credit card, and I had all of my I's dotted and my T's crossed. And the guy was so pissed at me. It was this little old man. He kept coming back at me, telling me why I had to pay this and that. And I said, no, I don't. After like 15 minutes, he just came and took the paper and slammed it on the counter. And I got my cheap car rental, and it was all good. No, didn't get pulled over by Mexican police. It was all good. But it allowed us to do Tulum, Playa del Carmen. We stayed at the Mayakoba. Tulum ruins, not far from there, really beautiful, right on the ocean. One of the rare occasions where you can see Mayan ruins and the ocean right next to it. Pretty spectacular as well.
Yeah, I was hoping to get out to some ruins, but we just didn't have time with work meetings and then kind of hanging out with everybody. It was a condensed trip, so we couldn't really venture out much outside the property. But I'll say like the two main restaurants that are down by the beach had really good food, which all this will change with an all inclusive. The Hyatt Club was really nice, and they had a great spread each evening and a full bar service. Like you could get almost anything while you were in there, which was cool. And they had like 4 or 5 people working at all times, and it was just speedy service. Everything was great. The food was really good in there. That's actually going to turn into a restaurant. We were told with the all inclusive, it's going to be like a Japanese restaurant, and then the Japanese restaurant's going to be turned into like a burger thing, and then the towel hut down by the pool is going to be turned into a pool bar because they don't have a pool bar. They have service down there, but they don't have like a stand up pool bar or anything like that. So I think they're going to be adding a lot. They only have 3 restaurants on site outside of the lounge, so they definitely need to add to that for an all inclusive. So I think they're working on it. I think I read that it was going to be a Best Western all inclusive, but I don't know if that was a joke or if that's true or what or what. But that's as far as I've gotten into what it will be next.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's not staying in the Hyatt portfolio as an all inclusive, given the 8 million high all inclusive brands that they have. I will say, like, Playa del Carmen is a cool place to visit. Like, where you're talking about the main street in the area, it's like a pedestrianized street. All of this stuff is very walkable. And you don't get that as much in Cancun if you go to the hotel zone and stuff. So it's really kind of a unique area and very neat there. If you're just going to stay on the beach, this is what I would ask your opinion on it. But I don't understand the extra travel to go all the way down to Playa del Carmen. If I'm just going to go to, like, let's say, lay on the beach in a all inclusive or in a resort, why not just stay closer to Cancun and not have to deal with, like you say, the transfer and all of that? That's my only sort of hesitation about all of it is I never understood going all the way down there unless you're really wanting to do the Mayan ruins or you be in a town or do that sort of stuff. I would just rather go to the hotel zone in Cancun and be on the beach in 20 minutes from landing.
Yeah, I think if you don't leave the resort, if you're one of the people that goes to an all inclusive and just hangs out there the entire time, then just do Cancun. And I'm not in love with the beaches in Mexico. I've never been like overly impressed by them, at least in those two areas. I know like Cabo is probably a totally different story. So I would do that. I liked, if I wanted to do an all inclusive, I would also want to go into town, and I'm not afraid to, maybe eat out, not on the dining plan, or have some pay for some drinks. I think that's the selling feature. If you like all inclusives for during the day, but you want to be able to go explore something during night and get kind of a more local nighttime vibe, I think that's the selling feature. But yeah, if you're an all inclusive junkie, then just go to Cancun and do it there. But we did end up, of course, Shawn, you know me, we ended up in some local bars, some basement after hours type of establishments and stuff. And it was a lot of fun and totally a unique experience that you wouldn't get in Cancun. At least I don't think.
No, I don't think you would, and I think it's completely different. And I really have enjoyed my time there. I think it's more active. Like I said, you can drive and go out to Tulum, maybe 30 minutes away from there. Koba, which is another set of Mayan ruins that nobody's ever heard of, but I believe it's the tallest pyramid in Mexico, is there, and even taller than the one in Mexico City. I don't know, a lot of cool stuff in that area, and for you to get beyond the sort of tourist stuff, if I was just being a tourist, I would honestly stay in Cancun. But it is,
Yeah.
it's nice, and I agree. The beaches aren't my favorite. This whole area is not my favorite part of Mexico or anywhere to visit. But the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, now that we're talking about all inclusives, this has really become part of culture now in 2025, right? We see, like, we talk about Hyatt and their boom of all inclusives, started with Ziva, Zalara. Now, I don't know, they own 8 million brands, but we see the boom in the cruise industry and how huge that is becoming. And now hotels being converted. And like, you drive down that coast in Mexico between Cancun and Playa, there's probably hundreds of all inclusives
Yeah.
filling up. So this is what people want, it seems like.
I think, everything is so, you have to be on your phone all the time at work. You have to think about everything. You have to do everything's like instantaneous. You got to do it by the minute. And in the old days, you could an email, maybe a couple hours response, or a phone call like the next day was okay. Now it's expected quickly. So I think people are just tired of making decisions, and they prefer vacation. I make one decision. I pick where I'm going, and then once I'm there, it's easy. Like you just go eat wherever. I pay one bill. I think people like the simplicity of it. As everything else gets not simplistic, this is one place where they can kind of have that experience. So I get why they are popular. I'm just surprised that they're booming in the way that they are.
Yeah, it's a good point. It simplifies your life. Most people probably aren't too worried about like the quality of the food. I mean, the quality of the food at a nice all inclusive, let's say a Hyatt level, is generally pretty good. It's not gourmet food usually, but it's good enough. And like you said, all the drinks. I mean, you get to try all the fruity drinks, all the drinks that you never order, all the crazy stuff. I just hate those all inclusives where you got the bar in the pool, those guys that just sit on the lounge there for hours at a time, never leave the pool. We know what's going on.
Yeah, and I should say the Grand Hyatt did have like an all inclusive add on package, which is usually not the best deal when places offer this. I think it was like $300 per person a night, or two high twos, something like that. And they're just like, that's not worth it. I don't think anybody's going to drink that kind of money and eat that kind of food there, especially with how few restaurants they have. So, but I will say all the food was good at the restaurants except for room service, which we did in like the meeting rooms. We had room service delivered there. That food was not good at all. So do not get room service if you're staying there before it transitions out.
You missed my peeing in the pool reference. You just skipped right over it. It's your
Oh,
favorite
sorry.
thing to talk about. Oh man.
It's salt. Hey, it's saltwater pools there, so you might not. They won't know if it's the salt water or your pee that they're tasting.
While we're talking about the area, I did just briefly mention the Andaz Mayakoba, and I just want to say how much I really love that property. If you're in the area, and since we're talking about it anyway, Mayakoba is this sort of like it's this sort of high end area with four high end resorts, golf stuff like that. Maybe 15 miles away from Playa del Carmen. The Andaz is the least nice of the properties there. You have a Fairmont, you have a banyan tree, you have a
Hey,
rosewood. All
guess
the
what? You can stay there next time.
Yeah. Well, this is cool too because it has a banyan tree actually in the lobby because all of these hotels are connected by rivers. There's boat rides, like jungle boat rides that you can take directly from the hotels. There's a beach side and then there's like a jungle side you're staying in. Truly unique property. And that's another cool place where you could spend a few days and just be in nature and enjoy sort of the hotel, not inclusive Hyatt points. I want to get back there. I haven't been back since the one time we visited. It's one of those places where I don't love Cancun. I don't love the hassle of getting there, especially from the West Coast. But that is a property that I would go back to and highly recommend for people. It's not cheap anymore. I don't know what it is now, maybe a category 6, but certainly one of the nicer Hyatts if you're looking in for that sort of unique resort feel.
Yeah, we should discuss my flight there because I had Detroit fly has a direct nonstop to Cancun from on Delta. So I had booked that. Prices were kind of crazy high for the time of year. It was like $350. So I used a couple airline incidental credits. There wasn't any Virgin space, and Delta wanted a high amount of Sky Miles, so I just booked it, burned those credits for $350, and then like a couple days before, I was checking other options, and Alaska popped for 20K connection through Charlotte in first class. So I was like, okay. Then that's the ultimate debate, isn't it? Like, do you take the 3.5 hour nonstop flight, or do you go 5 hours with a short connection? I think it was like an hour connection through Charlotte and fly first class and have a better experience. And it worked out well because then we were all getting there at the same time, so we could all get in the same transport shuttle, where I would have been getting there like 2 hours early and would have had to just hang out for a while or ride by myself. So that kind of, I made the decision before I knew that was the case. But I decided to take first class mainly because I was working that day. So I wanted the extra space and be able to take care of that. And then, of course, American charges out the nose for internet. But it was nice to have that extra working room. But which way would you have gone? Do you take the connection, Mr. Should I fly to Chicago, or do you take the direct?
I mean, that's tough, but knowing it's American and Charlotte, probably would have taken the direct. But yeah, I mean, that's really the sort of thing. I mean, the fact that you are paying so much for the direct and it was a deal, I guess, in comparison, or 20K for first class. I don't know. That would have been a tough one. But I think generally in most cases, and this seemed to have worked out for you, it's better to take the direct.
Yeah, I think so. I just with the work way, but I mean, if I'm in first, I don't mind taking connection if it's short. I don't know why you hate Charlotte so much. I mean, the airport's not great, but I never get like delayed or anything. If it was Dallas, I would have skipped it for sure.
Yeah, that's true. Charlotte's a lot better with delays compared to it's just American. I've been burned so many so many times with them that the direct I think that too many people have talked themselves out. Direct flights generally that's where you want to go, and then in certain cases it makes sense. Speaking of working on a flight, how do people do this? So I had to edit one of the videos on our flight back from Athens, and I have a big MacBook Pro, so it has a 16-inch screen, so it's not a small computer. But man, was that was that rough? I just see those people out there like working for hours on the plane. It's just not enjoyable at all to work in economy on an airplane.
Yeah, I try not to as much as possible if I'm in economy. There's just no space. And if that person reclines their seat, your computer screen's like folded in on itself a little bit. And it's just it's it's terrible. So that's why main reason I said I'm gonna take first, because in first you have all the extra space. I mean the tray table is usually not quite as big as you would like for your computer, but it's a lot better than you are in regular economy. I mean, premium economy, you probably could get away with it because you got that extra leg space, but it's still not a super great experience. Um, but yeah, and then the Wi-Fi, you never know if you're gonna get it or not get it, or if it's gonna drop. And sometimes it takes forever to load a page, and you're more frustrated than you are, getting work done.
Yeah, and then I'm always paranoid the person's going to recline and break my screen too. So you have to kind of, like you say, keep the screen kind of facing you a little bit so that if they do recline, it pushes the screen back in and doesn't get caught up in the seat and crack. And yeah, it's just no fun. So I'd never really work on planes unless I have to. And I had to, on the way back from Athens, edit a video. I did all the pre-production stuff I would need internet for before. So I was just there, but I was like doing this for like 4 hours, and I was like, oh man, I wish I was one of the nice people flying up front. Oh well. Feeling sorry for myself still, but I'm excited. So let me know in the comments. Should I go to Chicago to go to Seoul? Should I just eat the points and fly business class? Korean Air's business class, not the best. Even their first class, this is going to be one of the older suites, so not the nicest, newest product for Korean Air. But let us know on that. Chase Referrals, you sad that you're going to lose out on all of that. Playa del Carmen, what do you think about visiting there? Have you been to the Grand Hyatt, all inclusives, all of that stuff? Leave a comment. We do our show every Monday, talk about travels, miles, points, the lifestyle of all of this. We're in the lifestyle, Mark. My
It was the
words are just
longest
fucked up.
outro ever.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
That was
it
not
was.
the longest outro ever.
Have a good week, everybody.